If you are noticing that your LSAs are underperforming, you need to start to pivot. You need to figure out other ways to get at the top, get into the conversation on Google, because the search volume is not dropping. In fact, it's increasing.
A true marketing person needs to be involved with like the initial process, but also be involved with like the sales process too, and like the back end process and delivering the product and services.
And that's kind of firing off some neurons in your brain. You need to start thinking about local SEO, and you need to start thinking about a PPC strategy to help support the shortfall for LSA, especially if you've set big goals for yourself and you're already noticing you can't hit them.
Welcome to the show, Matt. Glad to have you back for the 5th time.
You're listening to the Bug Bucks Podcast, hosted by Alan Draper and Eric Bassett.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Bug Bucks Podcast. I'm Alan Draper. I've got Eric Bassett here with me, like I always do. What's up, Eric?
Hey, Alan. Things are going good, man. It's my favorite time of year, kind of getting to that good spring weather where it's like cool in the morning and like warm and sunny in the afternoon. I love it, dude. So Things are good.
Beautiful. Beautiful. There has been I'm trying to remember the report. I'm going to track it down for our listener, but there was a report. I think it came from some type of accounting firm or something in conjunction with some analytics. It looks like there's going to be 11% year over year growth in the pest industry this year.
I believe it.
So
There's like a connection between when the economy does bad and how pest control does well. It's like
I know
2008 straight up.
Such a cool industry. So, well, that's kind of cool because we're going to be talking about how to build your pest control company through marketing. Today, our guest is Matt Rogers. You kind of already heard his voice, probably recognize him, recognize that voice now. He's the COO of Lizard SEM. He's recorded 4 episodes with us. And if you haven't listened to them yet, I encourage you, check out the previous episodes. I'm going to list them real quick. Episode 33, titled The Facts and Fallacies of Scaling a Pest Control Company with Digital Marketing. That dropped on May 26, 2022. Episode 39, Why Marketing is Worth the Investment for Your Pest Control Company, which dropped on July 7th, 2022. Episode 57, How to Optimize Your Website for SEO, dropped November 10th, 2022. And the most recent one, episode 65, Tips to Help Convert Your Leads into Revenue with expert Matt Rogers, dropped January 12th, 2023. So make sure to go back and listen to those. And welcome to the show, Matt. Glad to have you back for the 5th time.
Thanks. I'm going to start paying rent now, I think.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. That's awesome, man. Well, you had so much value. I think it's really cool that you kind of grew up in a pest control family, but you have this niche where you do the marketing. And with a lot of, bug pros, bug guys like myself, it's a little out of our wheelhouse. Eric's different though. Eric's built different. That dude just like gets numbers, like, understands things really quickly, picks up on them. For a lot of folks, this is like, it feels almost like a foreign language. Have you found that just working with some, working in the pest control industry?
I will say this with the utmost respect to our industry, especially owner operators who have to wear so many hats, different hats.
Mm-hmm.
They feel compelled to wear all the hats. More often than not, I don't talk to enough Erics. I talk to a lot of people that think that they are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just saying that to blow smoke, Eric, but more often than not, I'm talking to people who kind of have an idea of how marketing works. But then when you kind of get down into the nitty gritty with them, there are some pretty big disconnects, especially how it relates to sales. So that's kind of been my experience. Even when we were running Killingsworth back in the day, all the other VPs, I hope they're listening to your show. I hope they're listening right now. All the other VPs would be like, I know what we should do for marketing. And they were the worst ideas. And so, yeah, more often than not, there's not enough Erics in this industry. So shout out, Eric.
Man, I feel you guys are buttering me up all sorts of ways. I feel like you're going to drop something on me and be like, we got a new project for you to work on. Can you run these numbers for us? I remember when I think it might've been your first or maybe even your second episode. But I remember you were like telling us about the whole process in marketing, and you're talking about how a true marketing person needs to be involved with like the initial process, like putting out your brand, putting out your campaigns, but also be involved with like the sales process too, and like the back end process and delivering the product and services, and
Thanks.
have eyes on everything. And I remember thinking like, dude, this guy gets it. Like finally I'm talking to a guy that like goes through the whole process. It's not just like, here's some leads and then, I'm out of here. See ya. So,
Yep.
hats off to you, Matt. You got some good head on your shoulders there too.
Thanks, man.
I think, kind of going back to Eric's situation, he has some really good partners that he can lean on, where you were talking about solo operators, and you hit the nail on the head, because they wear so many hats that it's tough. And I see, I was consulting this business the other day outside of our industry, and he was incredible at like he does a weekly blog, and dude, I think he was getting like 350,000 monthly visitors organic to his website, but he had a relatively small business. He wasn't converting on them. And he was spinning his wheels basically, because it wasn't all the time that he was spending on podcasts and all these things. It wasn't turning into top line revenue. And, that's the thing with a lot of people out there. I've seen, we posted in our Bug Bucks group, and I forgot to mention that, and there's still people that listen to this podcast that are not in our Bug Bucks group. It amazed me. I talked to one just yesterday, but make sure to join our Bug Bucks group on Facebook, BUGBUX. But there was a post, because we're doing a giveaway right now. And part of the giveaway to enter the giveaway, we wanted some suggestions about topics that we should cover, questions that people want answered. And there was a really great question. I'm trying to remember who it was from, but they mentioned like, hey, I feel like a lot of the content is geared toward people that are kind of up and running already. What can we do with our marketing if we're just trying to stay afloat? That's a good question.
If you're just trying to stay afloat, you need to start looking at marketing tactics that do not require a lot of capital, right? If you don't have money to kind of get in there with the big boys, because then you really need to be thinking about things like referral programs with your current partners, right? And figuring out how to either email or SMS those clients of yours to let them know if they get their neighbor to the left and the neighbor to the right signed up, you'll bump them down to this and use this link to get them there. That's a great thing that we used to pull out like all the time. And I know that it sounds like really old school, but I think nowadays people are looking for a little bit more old school. But even things like door hangers, when you're visiting that's like low cost, right? When you're getting done with the job and you go to the neighbor on the left and the neighbor on the right, and you drop a door hanger with a similar kind of offer. Hey, we're doing your neighbor's house. We can get you into this offer if that's something that you're interested in. That's a great way to keep costs low and to build interest in your brand without having to invest in things like, website overhauls, paid search advertising, local service ads, or search engine optimization, right?
I think, getting text selling is a great way. Like, work on that program. It's kind of free. I mean, I'm careful with that term just because there's some time investment, some training and stuff. But I remember when I was teching back in the day, and I would get a one-time service call or something like that. One of my favorite things to say was, like, especially in Michigan, they get really bad wasp nests, and they're like, "No, I'm selling my house," or like, "No, I just need this one wasp nest taken out. I never have problems, whatever." And I would go and I would tell them, like, I would knock it down for them, and then as I'm leaving, I would let them know about one of the neighbors. Like, I would look it up before, and I'd say, I would see that Susan Johnson, like 2 houses down, is like on our recurring program. And I would say, "Oh, do you know Susan Johnson? Just 2 houses down?" "No, I don't know her." "Okay, it's not this house. It's actually that one." Anyway, if she called me out to knock down this wasp nest for her, I would have done it for free for her. And they're like, "What?" Because I just charged them $250, $300, whatever. They're like, "Wait, what?" And it would like kind of make them mad. I'm like, "Yeah, so she's on our recurring program." And then it's like, just easy. Anyway, that's one example of like something that you can work on with your technicians. So, but we didn't invite you on here to talk about technician sales. Let's get to the nitty gritty.
If I could nail one more thing to that, this is really important. especially some of the people that come talk to Lizard and Bug Bucks. There is like a threshold before you get into digital marketing that you really need to hit as a company, right? If you don't have at minimum like $3,000 a month to put into digital marketing, you are up against some giants out there that are putting a lot of money into digital marketing, and you're going to feel like you're throwing your money away. That's the truth. And so I would invest in those not free, but much more cost-effective means of growing your company, those grassroots efforts to grow your company until you get to a place. I think a great mile marker is, yeah, I can live without $3,000 a month so I can continue to grow my business. I truly wouldn't even be having the conversation with the digital marketing company.
You know, it's kind of crazy when you think about, because I've had that conversation before with guys and they want to get into the digital marketing space and they want to talk about inside sales. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about your numbers so far, right?
Yeah.
And it's very minimal. And
Yeah.
they're barely just scratching the surface with digital marketing. And I'm like, okay, let's wait a minute. Because, you know, marketing in the beginning, just like you said, right? There's that threshold you have to be able to hit. You have to be willing to spend money to make money in marketing. And especially, I think marketing feels like it's the most expensive when you're not selling very well, when you're not closing very well, right?
Yeah.
You know, so if a company can go out and do some of these low cost lead methods, right? You know, you're sending win back campaigns through emails for all your canceled customers, free 99, right?
Yep.
You know, you're having technicians generate leads, all these different things. If you can take care of those and start getting a nice little recurring new customer, you know, close situation coming in, then you feel a lot better about the money you're going to be spending on new campaigns because you've got a sales team that's going to be selling those things. And, you know, but yeah, just like you said, it's kind of tough. I feel where a lot of these PCOs are coming in at, because there's that gap between, okay, right now I'm spending nothing and I need to spend at least this much, you know, what can I kind of do in between?
Well, grassroots also grows your route density. And, you know, I know we're not talking about come to talk about grassroots marketing, but it grows your route density, which is one of the biggest contributing factors to profitability of your company, right? If you can keep the windshield time low for your technicians by, you know, keeping them from driving across town in between every single stop, you're increasing your profit margin naturally. So it's a great place to invest some time and some thought before you kind of get to that threshold. But it's kind of a perfect segue, Alan, to the thing I was hoping to talk to you guys about in terms of getting out there and facing some of these giants in the pest control industry, because recently in lizards, I want to talk to your PCOs right now that are probably all experiencing this. I can imagine some light bulbs going out, because 9 out of 10 of the partners that Lizard's working with right now are all complaining about the same thing. And so we've been kind of doing a dig into what we can find over the past pretty much 2 months, March and April. And now, you know, we're entering May. But most of our partners are telling us that they can't cap their LSA budgets, right? Their local service ads budgets. They say we'll tell Google to spend all of our money. There's one partner that Brent and I were on the phone with yesterday. I told Google it can spend as much as it wants, but it's not even getting to my secret budget, right? My $4,000 budget. I'm not even close last month, right? And I think that we've figured out why that is. What we're seeing internally, like on the digital marketing side, not the PCO side, is you do have all of these big players out there, and they are all investing. They're using the same strategies that the little and the medium sized guys are doing as well. And that is they're starting with LSA. So the way that local service ads works is it's like the shelf at the top of your Google search, right? And there's only so many seats on that shelf. Okay. There's only so many seats on that shelf. And that's one variable. The other variable is there's only so much demand, right? In terms of searches that are out there. So you've got this small shelf with some of the, even the smaller partners that we work with will have 180 pest control companies in their cities, right? We'll do the marketing research. There's people that are coming out of the door-to-door industry and starting their own thing. There's medium-sized guys in there. And then you've got these big players like Terminix, Orkin, Anticimex, et cetera, right? So you've got the small shelf that everybody's trying to get on, and then you've got demand that's not offering up everybody's LSA ads quick enough. So what's happening, people that have hedged all of their bets on LSA as being their one thing that's going to get them through this year for their growth. It's like the biggest contributing factor to the growth that they hope to see in 2023. They're not capping their budgets. They're not getting the leads that they're looking for. And a lot of, I would say probably more 5 out of 10 of the partners that we're talking to are saying that the lead quality from LSAs is starting to get a little stinkier. Like it's starting to suck. That's what we've been experiencing on the back end, and that's why we think that that's happening.
So with LSAs, are they bidding like they are on like keywords for just PPC? Is that how it works? Like if somebody has a $4,000 LSA budget, can they just say, "Hey, I'm going to push this all the way up so that I'm, $200 a lead," or I don't know, something ridiculous. I don't know, something ridiculous.
I'll give a shout out to our boy, Josh Zuniga. He was the one that kind of rewired my brain on how to think about LSAs when we first met a while back. So Josh would give his LSAs. He would tell Google, you can spend $150,000 a month, right? I think I'm actually under. I think he said something more like $200,000, something crazy like that. But that's not his actual budget. He was telling Google, run away with it. There's no, this cart is going downhill. There's no horse, just go for it, right? But then he had this actual budget that he kept close to his chest, this number when he would turn his LSAs off, right? And so the things that make LSAs work, it's not like keywords. There are a handful of keywords in there that support, but it's mostly tied to your Google My Business page. So you need your digital marketing company to be optimizing your Google My Business page, 1. But 2, the things that affect your quality score for LSA are how quick the company answers the phone, because Google's not going to put your ad up if the ringing and ringing and ringing. It's not going to do it.
Well, and it's specifically, it's not just how fast are you answering your phone, or even with like Google AdWords. It's like specifically when LSA, when they click on the ad and then it's just that one button to call, how fast are you answering those calls?
Fast. So if your LSA doesn't get its own line and doesn't take the highest priority, that's one thing that's driving your quality score down. The second thing is your budget, right? And that's what we're seeing most of our partners frustrated with right now. And there's a workaround for sure, but partners need to pivot right now. Before I believe that people and Bug Bucks, definitely our partners, we're encouraging them all. They need to be pivoting their digital marketing strategy right now to compensate for an underperformance that most of our partners are seeing in LSA. For sure, they need to be thinking about local SEO, and they need to be thinking about PPC to kind of support where there's not enough room on that top shelf. We've got 2 other ways to get to the top of Google, right? So that we can get somebody to check out our company and make a buying decision with us.
Another thing that I was thinking about is, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, Matt, but I've heard that your ranking with LSAs also depends on reviews that you get specifically from LSA customers. So customers that have found you. And I think and I don't think there's a different review platform. I think it's still like the regular Google review platform, but is that accurate that it's specifically for people that found you via LSAs and left you a review? Is that right?
Google keeps the curtain pretty thick, right? Nobody's been behind to see Oz back there pulling all these levers, right? But there is definitely a correlation between the reviews that are incoming to your Google My Business and your LSAs, your LSA campaign's ability to get to the top of the shelf fast. There's definitely a correlation there. It's one of those things where nobody can quite put their finger on it. But even from the aspect of like social proofing, if you've got like a 4.5, but your competitors, even if there's Joe Bob's Pest Control Company, they've got like a 4.9 or a 5. The consumer's mind is going to gravitate. 4.9. The consumer's mind is going to gravitate to the 4.9. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They're going to think in their mind, they've got a better score than me or than that other company, which means that people trust them. So I'm gonna roll the dice on this company too. And so even from a social proofing aspect, that review number plays a significant role in whether or not your LSA ad is going to get clicked on.
Mm.
I think it's funny, just like you were saying, nobody really sees behind the curtain of Google, right?
Yep.
But whenever I think about how Google probably likely runs their campaigns and how they, look at the number of reviews, the quality of the review, right? Where the review comes from, is it LSA customers or not? Your GMB profile, your SEO, like all these things combined, right? And I
Yep.
think, if I was Google, would I look at those things? If
Yep.
my answer is yes, then I'm guessing Google's answer is definitely yes, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, Google, obviously they're in the business of connecting clients and companies,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's where they make all their money. And the
Yes.
more times they connect clients and companies, the more money those companies spend trying to make the
Exactly.
connection.
Exactly.
So for them, they're like, dude, I want to connect these people with quality companies.
Hmm.
Yep.
And the more quality factors they can think about making that happen, then I mean, that's what I would do if I was Google. So,
Exactly.
when you talk about like PCOs trying to transition or pivot and start leveraging things like SEO,
Yeah.
it's like, dude, if you're just putting all your money into LSA and some paid campaigns and you're not looking at SEO,
Yeah.
like you're missing a big piece of the puzzle right out of the gate.
For
So,
sure.
you know, I mean, so anyway, uh,
Specifically, specifically local SEO is
mhm.
function of a digital marketing company to improve and optimize your Google My Business page, right? And we do that a couple ways at Lizard. We'll create content and that's keyword specific. We'll do the keyword research for your market. We'll create content, load it up to your site, and link that to your Google My Business page. Meaning, it's just kind of like your Facebook or your Instagram. When you have relevant posts on there and it's happening monthly, Google knows that this is a business that's keeping an eye on this, right? So it's going to prioritize companies that take this platform very seriously, right? So that's one thing that do, making sure your business information is correct, working on things like backlinking, and then helping you with reputation management, getting these things into the right place to get more positive reviews, which are only going to kind of bolster. But here's the other bolster the kind of effects of the optimization that the team's doing. But here's the other piece of the puzzle, the other interesting way that local SEO works specifically. When you can't make it to that top shelf on LSA, right? And you've got a digital marketing company that's working on your local SEO also, meaning to improve the your Google My Business page, which is not far underneath that shelf. That's going to come up naturally if somebody's in your geographic region, right? If somebody's in your geographic region and your Google My Business page is optimized and it's fresh, the content is accurate, the reviews are good, then what's going to happen is you may not make it to that top shelf, but look, there is your Google My Business page right over there to the right, and there are your reviews right underneath that. And
Hmm.
the great thing about that is you didn't pay for that lead, right? You paid for it only in so much that you've got a company working on your optimizing your local SEO, but you didn't pay like a cost to get somebody to go to your Google My Business and make the phone ring or fill out a form, right?
Well, and I think another thing is that some people will avoid the ads. They'll go straight to that local 3 or 5 pack. That I'm like that. Some of my searches, it's like, hey, I know how those people got there. They paid to get there. Let's see the list of people that just put in the hard work that actually deserve to be up there.
Yep. I have a guilty admission, especially for some of your PCOs that have done this, thinking they're hurting their competition. When I was like really young in the industry, and I would hate one of our competitors here in the
Click on
Charlotte,
their ads.
I click on their ads over and over and over, thinking I'm depleting their budget. But the truth is that only works like once, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
okay, no more. So don't waste your time doing that. You're wasting your time. But here's the other thing about local SEO. Local SEO also is going to improve your web traffic. You'll see when you get your analytics report at the end of the month that more and more people are coming to your website to make buying decisions from your Google My Business page. And that's a direct relationship between a digital marketing company working on your local SEO every month. So it's going to increase visibility. So people are going to find you naturally on your website. And then people are going to find you right under those LSA ads, which is why it's a great kind of place to pivot. But then also, and I can't spill the beans. I've got asked this question a lot. I've got to brag on my team. I have to. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Oh
Of
yeah.
course.
Especially with the number of people that have come over to Lizard from, let's just say some of our competitors. they'll show us the reports for the cost per conversion for some of their competitors. And damn, dude. I mean, can I say that on your podcast? Because damn.
Now we're gonna have
It's
to bleep it
so
out. This is
dang.
family friendly.
Don't believe it. It's so the conversion costs for some of these things are so much. And the ladies, the queens that we call them at and paid search have got the conversion cost so low. I can't say how. I won't say how. I learned it from Killingsworth. I learned it from Anti-Semics, and I learned it from being out in the streets during the pandemic, right? Uh, but our conversion costs are usually about half, right? So another great place to pivot if your LSAs are not working is to get a PPC campaign in place that's running alongside. Split that budget between LSA and PPC, and at the end of the month, see which one's performing better, and then scoot some more budget over there. Because if you can't get on that top shelf, you've got to figure out how to get up on that page to get visibility. And those are two great ways to do it. You need to focus on your local LSA or local SEO, sorry, and you need to focus on your paid search campaigns. That's my advice.
I was just looking for what was it? I needed some help with some shades in our house in Florida. And so I went through the home service search, right? And one thing that I thought was interesting was first thing I did was skip the ads. Then I went to the local pack. No one would answer their phone. No one would answer their phone. And so then I started going through the just regular SEO and results. And a lot of people think, hey, if I'm not number one, it doesn't matter. And it's like, that's not true, because a lot of your competitors, like, they're not even answering their phone. So if you're going to invest, two things. One, get up there somehow, right? And get in the conversation. Get on page one. Get on page one. And then the second thing is get the logistics figured out. Answer your freaking phone. These people, like, and I'm talking like 10 companies I called in a row. Not a single one answered their phone. So don't hire a digital marketing agency, Lizard or somebody else. I don't care. Not have your logistics figured out and then blame it on the digital marketing agency. I've seen that so many times. It's like, yeah, we're not closing any of these deals. Is the phone ringing? Yeah, the phone's ringing, but the leads are crap. Have you listened to calls? No, I haven't listened to calls. The people you have answering the phone, like, let's do some training. Like, let's listen to some calls and give some feedback. And, and I do that regularly. I have our inside sales manager email me a couple of phone calls every week that he has not listened to. I don't allow him to filter and send me just the good ones. And I found out we had an issue asking for credit cards recently because I've listened to those calls. And this is once the sale's already been made, right? But we're, big on auto pay. We're big on, retaining our customers. I don't know if a lot of people out there are. But in order to do that, you got to get them, paying their bills. But just that bothers me so much. It's like when I was an attorney and somebody would come to me and they're like, yeah, you're the third attorney that I've hired. Like, immediately I doubled their hourly rate immediately, because after a while, it's not everybody else, it's you, which is, for me, that's a really refreshing thought, because if it's me, then I can control it. If it's other people, it's more difficult. But if you're going to hire somebody, I don't care if this is Liz or somebody else, but get your ducks in a row and identify the issue, because I just see people cast this kind of this wide net with, it's like, I had somebody this week. They're like, yeah, there's no good digital marketing agencies out there. Somebody's making money. Doesn't sound like it's you, but somebody's growing their company.
For sure.
Well, and I feel bad for a lot of PCOs because, and me and Matt have talked about this a few different times. And I've actually introduced Matt to a couple of clients that I worked with because of similar issues where, you don't have good communication between the two, the marketing company and the PCO. Maybe the PCO doesn't have a good sales team. Maybe the marketing company sucks either way.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not evaluating, then how in the world are you ever going to know, And we just did, we can call this a little teaser, but I did a little bit ago some content for our Bug Bucks Plus. We did a customer service inside sales course.
Mm-hmm.
And I said in there that one of the best abilities an inside sales team can have is availability, right? Can't sell customers if you can't pick up the phone, right? And if you're not staffing right, if that staff's not prepared properly, if they're not trained, regularly evaluated, then I mean, you're just throwing money away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all that information has to circle all the way back around to your marketing guy so that you can say, hey, these are the leads that came in. This is what we thought. This is the answer time. This is our availability. This is abandon rate, right?
Yeah.
And without diving too far into the metrics, it's just so important for PCOs to understand that it's this whole circle, right? It's this nice little cycle. Yeah, and the better that your sales team does, the better your marketing team can take that information and then get you better leads. Better the leads are, the better your sales team does. And oh man, then that ball's rolling, right?
Yes.
But you got to be evaluating.
Eric, literally, I get blown away when some of the PCOs that we talk to at Lizard talk to me about how much money they're spending, how much money goes out the door to their door-to-door team, right? And then the question will be like, okay, talk to me about your inside sales team, because that's where these leads are going, right? These leads that we're making. How much are you investing in your inside sales team? Like, well, we're kind of behind the 8 ball on at best. At best, they'll be like, well, we're kind of behind the 8 ball. I'm thinking about putting together XYZ. Most of the PCOs I'll talk to will spend crazy amounts of money. They'll lose their ass, is what Mike Rogers would say, on these door-to-door, incentives, travel, commission, retention commission, all this stuff, right? And then I'll ask, hey, who's taking care of these leads that we're kicking over to you? Can they overcome price objections? Do they have a commission structure in place? Are you spending time with them weekly, talking about your goals and working on your conversion ratios, right? And I'm not throwing any of our partners on the bus because they're all working on it. But I would say the majority of the people I talk to in this industry do not treat their inside sales team like they treat their outside sales team. And that's a shame. You really do have to kind of make an investment with the people that are, and Proof's a great example. What Tommy's got going on over there with this team, it's ridiculous. Their conversion ratio is great. I can count on a lead. I've considered digital marketing company's job to throw an underhanded pitch to the batter, who is the companies that we're representing, right? If I want to get the slowest, most underhanded ball, I can, and I want them to knock it out of the park, and I can count on Tommy to knock that thing right out of the park.
It's kind of interesting because I think the mentality is, and we've had to work on it over the years, and you see these companies put so many resources into door-to-door, and I get it. Door-to-door, like the way that I kind of analyze it, if they don't sell an account and have certain requirements, right? They have to be active as of a certain date, receive a certain number of services, whatever. They get zero. So there's, on that hand, there's a little less risk. But if you have a real program, the risk isn't zero because you have a recruiting office, or you have preseason, postseason recruiting expenses, you have apartments, you have all these expenses. But for some reason, people that are in the door-to-door world, they're like, oh yeah, we'll throw like lots of money after a door-to-door program, but they won't do that with digital marketing. And Proof, with all of our faults, especially in the beginning, we never really had that mentality. We ultimately, as we're growing both door-to-door and inside sales, the goal is that eventually, and we're not quite there yet, but eventually inside sales passes door-to-door as they're both growing. But inside sales is growing at a faster clip. And the reason is because, number one, my cost per lead and my cost per customer acquisition is a lot less. Number two, and this I think is the biggest kicker, I retain my customers longer.
Facts. Facts. And number three, you can cover more ground faster, right? Door-to-door team to even factor in one guy, how long it takes to get from post A to post B to post C in one day. How many doors is he going to hit, right? Versus
exactly.
You can serve from behind a computer. How many underhanded throws you can give to Tommy's team over there at Proof? It's not even.
And not to completely throw door-to-door under the bus, because there's obviously some awesome attributes. The number two, top reasons for me are volume, right? That it's really tough to match. And then number two would be that route density. It's like we're literally knocking the next door neighbor. So those two are tough to beat.
Yeah, six of one,
Yeah.
half dozen of the other is what great grandma Rogers would say. That's true.
Yeah.
I feel like one of the pitfalls that new PCOs or say smaller PCOs fall into, with especially with inside sales, is that for the first little while, they're the guys answering the phone, right? New lead calls
Yeah.
in, whether they have digital marketing or not, they pick up the phone, and you know what? That PCO is probably good. I would say that most of the time they're decent.
And at least passionate and serious about closing the customer, right? At least that much.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. So, he closes a deal, he does pretty well, eventually he gets kind of burnt out on wearing all the hats. And so, he hires an office person to kind of help out. And he's like, hey, I want you to take these leads too, answer them when you can or whatever. And that office person starts doing it. And maybe they're good, maybe they're not. I've worked with a lot of really good office managers that have turned into fantastic sales managers. But a lot of times I see that there's a disconnect between the owner passing that on to an office person and actually training them to be a
Yep.
salesperson, right? And then at the end of the day, he's just happy that those calls are getting answered, even though that person's closing at sub 30%,
Yep. No.
and they're like, hey, I don't know what to do. I don't have the time to train them. I barely have the time to answer these calls, go out and do all my route stuff. So, as a PCO, it sounds tough, but you have to start implementing better standards for the inside sales, like the leads that come into your company.
Yep.
And if the people that are answering the phones can't hit those standards, you got to be able to bring new people into the company who can. Otherwise, you're always going to be spending money on marketing, and the leads are always going to be expensive. And your customer acquisition cost is going to be expensive, and it's going to be painful.
Yep. Facts.
Well, we've been just rambling on for about 30 minutes. I want to get closing thoughts. Like what's at the top of your mind, Matt? Like what's, tell me about the digital marketing space. Like what do you need to tell our PCO friends?
Well, my encouragement to our friends in the industry, especially to the bug bucks guys that are out there, and ladies that are out there busting their ass trying to make it work, is if you are noticing that your LSAs are underperforming, you need to start to pivot in your mind. You need to figure out other ways to get at the top, just like Alan said, to get into the conversation on Google, because the search volume is not dropping. In fact, it's increasing according to what we were talking about earlier. The country's in recession, which means, which I don't know why this ratio works like this with pest control, but pest control goes up. Okay. It's gone up since 2008. Those are Killingsworth's banner years. Okay. We grew crazy numbers during the housing crisis, right? So if you're noticing, if you've hedged all of your bets on LSAs and it's not working, and that's kind of firing off some neurons in your brain, you need to start thinking about local SEO, and you need to start thinking about a PPC strategy to help support the shortfall for LSA, especially if you've set big goals for yourself and you're already noticing you can't hit them, right? We're even pivoting with proof right now, right? We've got these big crazy goals, and we're having to figure out how to hit those goals. You got to skin this cat more ways than one. And you got to have a backup plan for if a plan doesn't work. Otherwise, you're not going to get to where you're trying to get to. And it's not worth your time to be out there, to be in a crawl space, to be dealing with mean, nasty customers that don't want to pay, to be breaking your back and not kind of reap the reward at the end. So I'm speaking to you, friend to friend, participant in the industry to another participant in the industry. If you're seeing that that's not working, it's a flag that you've got a saturated market and you need to pivot. That's where I'm at.
Cool. Love it. Great place to end on. If people have questions, they want to reach out to Lizard, reach out to you, what's the best way to connect?
Lizardmarketing.co, or you can hit us up on our Instagram, Lizard Marketing. So yeah.
Pretty easy to find.
So easy.
Right on. Hey, thanks for joining us for the 5th time. Again, make sure to go and listen to those episodes that Matt has been with us on before, especially if there's a specific topic that you're wanting to research. Also, join our Facebook group, BUG, and look forward this summer. Look forward to an exciting announcement from Bug Bucks, as we're developing some new tools to help you build, scale, manage your pest control companies. And we'll catch you next time.
Bye, guys.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please show your support by subscribing and leaving us a 5-star rating. Thank you, and we'll catch you on next week's episode.